You just stole the prayer I was going to say, so good job. Also, I just wanted to point out all the green shirts. You guys look really good. That's awesome. So, this morning I get to tell you one of my favorite stories, not just a Camp Zion story. Those are, of course, my favorite. But my favorite gospel story. The story of Peter has been one that has stuck out to me since I was in middle school. I remember hearing it for the first time and being like, I think I'm a lot like this guy. So I'm excited to share it with you this morning and tie it into some things that happened this summer. So let's hear the story of Jesus walking on water from Matthew 14, verses 22 to 33. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side while he dismissed the crowds. After he had dismissed them, he went on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, he was there alone, and the boat was already a considerable distance from the land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came towards Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" And when they climbed back into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." So, a few reasons why this is my favorite story. One, it has always been my dream to walk on top of water, because it sounds so fun. And as a kid, my sister and I and my family would go camping, and we would run into Lake Michigan as fast as we could to see if we could stay on top of the water. It lasted for about 2 seconds, and then we fell. We fell because we tripped over our own feet. But that's what makes this story different. Jesus isn't a normal person. We're all aware of that. But that's what makes him capable of walking on water. I tried to picture what it would feel like to be one of the disciples, to be in this boat on the Sea of Galilee, and all of a sudden there's a person next to you. I don't do a lot of sailing. Boats kind of freak me out, actually. But I think that would be a little bit creepy, especially in the middle of bad weather, which it sounds like they're in. If you know anything about the Sea of Galilee, which I do now because of seminary, so that's great, it's in the Jordan River Valley in between a lot of mountains. And so storms are actually really common because of the difference in weather between the mountains and the valley and the temperatures and all of the different fronts and whatnot. So a storm like this was pretty common, but still nonetheless scary. So they're in a storm, and Jesus is there. And Peter's reaction puzzles me a little bit, because if I were in a boat and I saw someone next to me, I wouldn't want to go by them. I would want to go on the other side of the boat and stay as far away as possible. But it's Jesus. And the disciples realize that as soon as he says something to them. But Peter still has a little bit of doubt. He doesn't quite believe it. He says, "Lord, if this is you, tell me to come." And that's exactly what Jesus does. So Peter walks, and he's doing it. I'm sure there was a moment of elation, those first couple steps of, holy cow, this is actually happening. And then he starts to look around, and there's wind, and there's waves, and he is on top of water, and he freaks out. But that's what Jesus is there for. Jesus catches him and reminds him that just have faith, and that's what this is. So I've never been in a boat, walking on water, anything like that. But I have been told to get out of the boat a couple of different times in my life. The biggest moment that I can think of, Kelly and I were talking about this in the car on the way here this morning, was 2 years ago, right after we got married. We were actually on our honeymoon up north. And we were sitting there, and neither of us had jobs for the fall. This is June 2013. Neither of us had jobs for the fall. I had just lost my job the week before we got married. We were renting a house that we absolutely hated, and we had no idea what was next. We didn't know where we were going. And I had been fighting the seminary battle for a while at this point. And so I finally remember praying, "All right, God, I'm out of ideas. I can't do this. I'll follow you. I'll go. That's fine." The next week we got home to Holland, and I signed a really big tuition check, and I started seminary in September, and I fell a lot of times getting started. I did not want to be at seminary. I hate public speaking, as most of you know by now. Being a preacher and a pastor was the very last thing on my mind. But a couple weeks after seminary started, I ended up right down the hall in Greg's office, because part of seminary is you need an internship. And so I showed up to do this meeting with a person I'd never met at a church I had never heard of before. And about 5 minutes into the conversation, the words "new camp program" were said, and I was sold. I was done. I called Kelly on the way home. I said, "Guess what? I found a church for us. We're going here." Because I knew right away that this was the place I was supposed to end up at, that we were supposed to be at. And I wouldn't have figured that out if I wouldn't have gotten out of my little boat. And if I wouldn't have gone to seminary, I would have never been here. So I started walking, and I have a picture to show you what happens when I started walking. This is from camp last summer. It's my favorite picture I think we've ever taken at camp. And last summer, to remind you, we averaged 35 kids a day in this building, and we were so scared in May when we had an open house and 10 kids showed up. I cried the entire way back to Holland on the phone to my mom and said, "Greg's gonna fire me tomorrow because I'm not doing a good job." And we freaked out. I thought this was gonna be a huge failure. But this is what happened. And so we walked on water that entire summer and learned as we went and had a really good time. But then I got back in my little boat of seminary and school and homework and said, "Great, I'll finish out the year at Zion and that will be it. I've done my summer internship. I'll do my 2 years and that'll be it, and we'll move along and I'll be done." But then we started talking about camp for this summer. And Greg asked me before I left for Cambodia in January to make a decision whether I was going to come back and lead camp again or not. And I had no idea. I went back and forth probably 200 times, not even kidding. Kelly can tell you that's a true number. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And then I was driving here on a Wednesday night, and I just was thinking about it. I was like, I can't leave yet. This is it. I need to get out of the boat one more time. I need to do this again. And this is what this summer looked like. That's the very first day of camp this year when 62 kids show up. And we all kind of stood there again and went, "Holy cow, how are we going to do this?" And if you want to go one more picture for me, we took 85 people to the Public Museum in Grand Rapids to go to the planetarium. Throughout the course of this summer, we saw all 80 of the kids that we had registered for at least a week. The smallest number of times a kid came was 5. And we ended up with one day of 70 kids. Our average was 64 kids. So we doubled, which is really impressive in 2 years, if I say so myself. Just throwing that out there. But this is what happened. I did not want to get out of the boat. I wanted to stay in little seminary land in Holland with my homework and the papers that I could write and not have to say out loud and do all of these things and just be where I was. But that's not what God had planned. And so that's why we're here. That's what camp did. But I wasn't the only person who got out of the boat through Camp Zion this summer. Tom Booby reminded us every Thursday afternoon in staff meeting that it takes a lot of people to pull off camp. So I want to show you those people and show you who made it happen. The first is our Week of Hope group. The people you don't recognize in this picture are one of our Week of Hope groups and one of our kids who decided he wanted to be in the picture too. This is our group from week 2. And they were one of my favorite groups. All of them were good, let's be honest. But this is one of my favorite groups of the summer because of the way that they just jumped in right away. They were from different states and from different parts of Michigan. But Monday morning, we told them what we do, and we told them what things were and where everything was, and they said, "Hey, let's go, I'm ready." And they jumped in, and we had kids crying at the end of this week because they were so sad that their new friends had to go home. Which is great that these high schoolers, these are 16, 17-year-old kids who didn't know us, don't know this building, don't know this community, don't know our kids. But by the end of the week, they were family. And that's great. And that happened 7 times over throughout the entire summer. So I'm so proud of them for taking those steps and getting out of their own boats and coming here, and then in loving our kids the same way that we loved them. The next group of people that we should talk about is our community. If you've heard of the Blacktop Rec program from Holland, which is one of the groups that the youth groups would work with on mission trips, they were a big inspiration for us to start Camp Zion here. And this is when we did a combined field day with them over at Hughes Park in Hudsonville. Whoever thought it would be a good idea to get 90 kids together in a park is crazy, Jeremy. But it was so much fun. It was one of my favorite days of the summer. Riley and I loaded up my car with 40 pizzas and drove it over to the park, and we had lunch together, and we played Capture the Flag and a lot of different games, and it was a blast. And our kids made friends, our staffs got to know each other a little bit, and it was just so cool to see how these two different groups are impacting their communities and how we're also impacting each other. We gave each other a lot of really good ideas this day. Our staff led half of the games, their staff led half of the games, and it worked, and it was so much fun. So it's just really refreshing to see that there are groups, not just here, but there are groups across West Michigan who are reaching out to kids and doing what we love to do. It's happening other places too, and we can work together, which was a really cool thing to see. Another group I have to talk about, I've already talked about them a little bit, is Zion Volunteers. The girls in this picture asked me if I had my phone on me. This is right after we ate lunch. And I said, yeah, I do. Why, do you need something? They're like, yeah, we want to take a picture. I was like, oh, how cute. They want to take a picture with me. This is great. And then I said, okay, let's take a picture. They're like, no, hold on a second. We have to get Carly. They didn't want a picture with me. They wanted a picture with Carly. Because Carly came once a week when she could around her different schedules. And every day she showed up, it was such a big deal that she was there. And that was a huge thing for all of our Zion volunteers. If you showed up one time, I got asked about 20 different times after that, when is so-and-so coming back? Or why are they in New York? Why can't they be here this week? Why didn't we go to New York with them? Or wait, what day is it today? Is Miss Rachel coming today? Is Miss Carla coming today? If you volunteered, put your name into that question because it happened, I guarantee it. And it was huge. We had almost 70 volunteers come, and half of that was Week of Hope groups, and the other half was people from this church. And that's just huge. We couldn't do it without volunteers. Our kids fell in love with the volunteers just as much as we fell in love with them in the past 7 weeks. And they were family. It was the people that they were excited to talk to every day, the people that they wanted to go outside with, that they wanted to eat with. It was awesome. It's really awesome to see. If you haven't seen it, volunteer in the future so you can see it, because it's really great. And another group that was really great to see get out of their boats this summer was our 3 staff members, Haley, Allie, and Daniel. They can't be here today. But this picture, if you see Daniel in the white shirt in the middle, that's a pretty normal amount of kids to be surrounding him at one time. And that happened, and most of them are girls, which is another typical thing that happened to Daniel this summer. But really put any of our staff in that spot, and that's what it looked like. Because they love those kids so much. Our volunteers did a great job, our staff did, whether it was leading a game that I threw them into the middle of, or leading devotions for us on a Thursday morning, or just sitting with a kid who's crying and putting Band-Aids on their knees when they fall rollerblading and making sure they know it's going to be okay. Or being the boss when they have to and saying, hey, you two are fighting, cut it out, let's talk about it. Any of those things our staff did, and they did it well. And they were great. I don't know many college freshmen who are willing to give up their summer to sit with loud and sometimes whiny kids all day, every day. But they did, and they loved it, and they wanted to be here. And that was really, really great thing to see. So that's some of the ways we got out of our boat this summer. Not just me, but this whole community. We did it together. There was never a time where I was doing it alone or where I felt like I had to run camp entirely by myself, because if I needed something, I mean, look around. I have hundreds of people that I can ask for things. But that was camp, and camp has ended, and our time here is ending. But I don't want you guys to stop what you did this summer. I don't want you to stop getting out of the boat, because there's so many more ways that that can happen in the future. I always think, I know Kelly's going to hate me for saying this, but school is coming. It's a fact. It happens. And with school comes a lot of schedules, and it comes with routine and the sports practices and the hours, and you get into a routine of things. And it's really easy, for myself included, to get in this comfortable little boat and to sit and know, oh, this is my life. This is the 4 things I have to do. This is what my kids do. We're good. That's it. But just because summer's ending doesn't mean your chance to walk on water is ending either. There's plenty of ways here you can get involved. There's plenty of ways in the community you can get involved. Maybe it's being a Sunday school teacher for the first time. Maybe it's going to a Sunday school class yourself for the first time. Maybe it's jumping in on a Wednesday night, or jumping in with the youth group, or whatever it might be. Or high schoolers, apply to be on staff next summer for Camp Zion. Just an idea. There are so many different ways that you can get involved here and get out of your boat. Just because summer ends doesn't mean the need in our community is ending, or the need in our church. Sometimes we think that to get out of our boat, we have to do something big, like run a camp or do different things like that. But that's not what it is. You can do anything. And talk to your neighbors that you've never talked to before. Invite them to come to church with you, or go to their church with them, or do something like that. There are plenty of different ways. If you want to go to the next picture, this is one of the ways you can. The little girl in the blue glasses, if you don't know Lola, that's Lola. This is at her bone marrow drive. The DeYoungs are going to need a lot of help, just while they're having a baby and doing a bone marrow transplant at the same time. There are families like that. I'm sure you can all think of one right now, whether it's a kid that's in your child's class, or someone in your neighborhood, or someone in your office. There are people that need help all around our community, and that's a way that you can get involved. Be with them. Get out of your boat, take 2 steps over and eat lunch with someone, or invite them to church, make a phone call, send a text message or an email. Whatever it is you want to do, I can't make that choice for you, but you know what God's calling you to do. You know the people in your life, and you know the ways that you can get out of the boat. I'm going to cry, so I'm going to go really fast. But I've learned that from you guys. Over the past 2 years, both Kelly and I have. So I want to encourage you to keep going, because that's the biggest thing we've learned here. And I don't want you to stop doing that. You're going to teach your next intern that. You're going to teach the next family that walks through that door. And it's going to be really cool. And I'm really excited to stay in touch with everyone and to figure out how God is working here and how you're going to keep getting out of the boat in the future. So let's pray. Lord, thank you for this community here at Zion, for the things we've done this summer, through the Week of Hope camps, through Camp Zion, and through other different ministries that we have here. Thank you for calling us to get out of the boat and to walk with you, whether it's something we want to do or whether it's something that is absolutely terrifying to us. Please open our eyes in the future for ways that we can keep getting out of the boat, whether it's here, in our neighborhoods, at our schools, at our offices, whatever it might be. We know that you have a plan, and we know that whatever is out there in the water is much more than anything we could ever put in our boats with us. Thank you for giving us the chance to do that and work with you in your ministry. Amen.